So I was just watching Tucker Carlson on the Redacted show with Clayton Morris, and these guys are just simply fantastic. And I was really impressed with this conversation, and it was just really kind of inspiring to see really mainstream news reporters that have woken up, as it were. Of course, I only wish they would wake up a little bit more. And so I thought, as I was thinking about this, what I would say is that I would talk to them as though they might be listening. I kind of doubt that they would be, but hey, miracles happen. And as I was listening to these folks, and this happens to me a lot when I'm watching people like James Corbett from the now banned forever from YouTube uh, Corbett Show, and many others. Carrie Cassidy also banned, and I wish that I could somehow get across the information that I have into the mainstream, because now I know that, just putting aside the fact that probably you wouldn't love me as much as I love you, I would just point out that the truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. And I want to tell you, first of all, just because you were talking about the censorship on YouTube, what YouTube has done to me since I started actively uploading to the channel that came really with my Gmail account, because I just opened up an email there, and then they said that I had a YouTube account, so I went ahead and did it. But I didn't really upload much to it until January, February of 2013, when I discovered something so incredible that I realized that you guys can't talk about something like this or you'll be discredited. That's why it's up to fringe lunatics like me to talk about this, but I know that you guys are aware of some of it. And I realize that until something public breaks that opens this up, it's one of those things that you can't talk about. I was encouraged to see, because I was kind of dismayed about the 9/11 thing, which Tucker Carlson was talking about Building 7. Now, I don't want to get him in trouble, but the thing is, I was kind of concerned that he didn't know about that, and that it was, a situation where, he was in denial of it. No, I clearly understood from that conversation he knew about it, and he knew in order to do the good that he is doing, and I want him to keep doing it, he had to keep his mouth shut about that, okay? And probably any of the other stuff that I would talk about here. But eventually, and someday in the earth, it will come that what I have revealed here will be common knowledge. Because actually, the beasts, the non-humans, which is what my whole theme is, similar to what David Icke kind of was famous for and made a lot of money from. I won't make a lot of money from what I'm doing, but that is going to be open in the earth someday. God's word tells us. And what I wanted to say is that maybe just sort of plant the seeds, if by any chance you guys would be watching my channel. Sorry, I'm going to switch a little bit between talking to you and talking about you. But this is so important, that this is so incredible. This is because I heard, I hear, especially you two guys who are like kind of more mainstream, people that are not going to believe in wild conspiracy theories about UFOs and non-humans and Bigfoot and stuff like that. They're not going to listen to anything like that. Believe me, my family is full of them. They will, word one about that, and it's and in fact, I gotta tell you, my whole family is at me now, right now. They don't even talk with me, and I think largely because of what I brought up about the vaccines, which I was also kind of glad to see that there was some common sense there about that. Look, here's the thing, just real quick. The mystery behind a lot of what's happening cannot be addressed without addressing Satan, a real figure who I was talking with three separate people who described his avatar, just like the avatar in the movie Avatar, a body that you get into, but it's not really what your original body was. So that's who Lucifer is. Okay, Lucifer is the avatar for Satan, who is a giant reptile, believe it or not, with big horns that go like this, okay, according to one witness. And there's lots of other witnesses, but in any case, this is real because three people I was talking to described his avatar in a whole episode that I had with angels. God sent me some angels in 2019, and it was the most magnificent experience I ever had, including the experience of love. But in any case, God sent me an angel, and there were two other angels associated with her. But when she prayed to God, an angel, by the way, that could, get this, heal any injury or disease instantly by either a flash of light coming out of her hands or taking that sickness or injury onto herself. For instance, somebody with a almost severed arm that was going to have to be amputated, and third degree burns down the body of another man. She took it all onto herself and then healed herself. And in one case, actually, and this gets to one of the most impressive things, she could actually make bodies and people. I'll say that again. She could make human bodies and complete autonomous people. And unlike some others who make these wild claims, I have pictures and video, which I was asked by these angels not to show or talk about it too much beyond what I have already talked about on my public YouTube channel and other media outlets. Now, she could heal any disease or injury, and she could, with an invisible sword, cut off men's limbs. And I know that sounds scary and weird, and when myself and a policeman who I was talking with there in Thailand, all this happened in Thailand, I was here at the time, but God made sure that somehow I was involved with all this, and I learned everything through a very beautiful and excellent translator, the lawyer actually of my angel, who was actually a I don't want to give too many details, but she was a person living and working in Thailand, and I have all the documentation, I have all the email and everything, and he translated everything to me perfectly, what was happening in English. And this guy's writing was better than most people who speak English as their native language. He was that good. And but God provided him that I would understand everything. So she could heal any injury or disease. She could cut off people's limbs. And by the way, that was done because of some people that found out about her powers, and they wanted to test her powers. And they were going to, they killed some animals in front of her, and they brought a little girl in, and she warned them that if they killed a little girl or hurt the little girl, that she would cut their hands off, these two big men with swords. And she warned them, and they did not heed her warning. So she told her lawyer and former priest, the one I just mentioned that wrote me the letters, to get out of the room. So he did, and she proceeded to cut the hands off of the two gentlemen with the swords. And the photos that you're seeing here are the police photos of those hands. I have to black out the gore, but I have the photos that fully show it. And if you want, I can show them to you in private or send them to you in an email. But I was asked by the angel not to reveal too much of this. I know that sounds a little suspicious. Believe me, I was suspicious the whole time. Thought it was Satan trying to get me. But I finally realized, no, these were real angels. Real, okay? And there was two other angels associated. One of them I didn't get to know very much, but he could shoot fireballs out of his hands and a bunch of other weird stuff. And he walked around everywhere with bare feet. And a lot of people died in this episode, including him and the main angel, the main angel I call Angel A. And then the third thing that she could do was make people, as I mentioned, as in make people, okay? As in make people. She made 3 autonomous people and created 3 bodies for various purposes, and she could also shapeshift, okay? And she shapeshifted into another woman that she knew, and then she shaped 2 other women that she knew, and I have photos to prove it. and she also shapeshifted into a very elderly Japanese man who happened to be there in Thailand where she was living. And this was all done because they were trying to kill us, and we were trying to work out a deal that was in progress, but it didn't work out. And about a total of about, I think about 8 people died, and some of them whom I knew and I got to be very good friends with. And I can tell you this whole thing is incredible and real. But if you talk with me in depth, cross-examine me back and forth, you'll see that it's true. I never called myself a priest. I thought I was a guy with a video camera. That the thing that I discovered in 2013, that the technology that I use, a video camera and a computer to take apart the footage of just shooting my own television. What you're going to see on the screen here is the single most important piece of evidence that I have gathered that we have non-humans living among us. And get this, I know this is really, that's even weirder than that, but we have non-humans living inside of us. You may have heard of them, demons. We actually have multiple intelligent, conscious beings, language, and get this, money-using, technology-using beings that live inside of us. Okay? And I have video to prove it. Beyond any shadow of a doubt, what you're seeing in a lot of these images are the spirit bodies of either demons, and this, by the way, demons is not a biblical term, but it's the general term for evil spirits, whereas devils is referring to, I believe, reptilians or what you might call serpents from the Garden of Eden. And these creatures may actually also possess physical bodies, but they leave their physical bodies to come and attach themselves to people, as described by the late Susan Reed in her book, The Body Snatchers, and many other witnesses to this fact. I even have a picture from a video of some other guy that did reptilian shape-shifting analysis video. I know that's highly discrediting sounding. It sounds crazy. It took me a long time to even accept that this could possibly be real and what happened to me. So I want to tell you real quick what happened to me in case you're listening to this, you want to know what happened. Okay, so I discovered in a certain experience I had at a 2012 anime convention. I'm an anime fan, so that's Japanese animation. I've always been a big fan. I really love it. They'll put on my tombstone, loved anime until the day he died. I was at a convention, and I didn't really like these conventions for whatever reason. I just don't think they're well done, but I still like to go to see as much stuff as I can and kind of commune with the whole community. But I had a very dark experience, and it wasn't anything in particular that happened. It was just this very, very dark feeling that left me very troubled, and I was wondering what's going on. It wasn't that I saw anything that's particularly, I know about a lot of the evil in the industry and marketing to kids and pornography and stuff that gets used with all this and evil stuff going on, I know. But, aside from that, there's also some very great stuff. And so that's why I still love it, and that's why I still watch it. But I also know that in large part it is, in fact, anything that's allowed to be published is authorized by Satan, the devil. I was going to mention that the 3 people that saw Lucifer's avatar each described separately to me that he had long, curly, white hair, and that he was very beautiful looking. Okay, remember, it's an avatar. But unfortunately, he got his face eaten off by an angel who I sent to go rescue my friend, who unfortunately in the end I wasn't able to save him, not from that episode, but further on when he was doing something else, attempting to save somebody else's life, he died. And this was a 95-year-old Buddhist monk who was the headmaster monk of a huge Buddhist monastery in Thailand, who I got to be personal friends with, and I shared an anime with him, ergo proxy, and he loved it. And we had many discussions via the translator I mentioned, a former priest of that monastery, and that was his former master, and now also the lawyer of my friend, who also turned out to be an angel living a human life, who I met her in 2018, and she perished. She perished, excuse me, in October of 2020. Now, I wanted but to get back to how I met this angel and how she ended up telling me that I'm a priest because she prayed, and the answer she got from God was protect a priest, and that's what she did. She helped me, and with a lot of things, including the cool camera that I'm shooting on now. I've never had a professional grade camera that I could actually shoot indoors with. You can't, by the way, in case you didn't know, you can't shoot indoors with these without a bunch of weird grain in the corner that looks totally unprofessional. That's why I decided to get this. It turned out to be a lot more. This is actually a Sony APS-C, in case you're wondering. So, but what happened was so from this anime convention that I went to, I got this dark feeling, and I started to started to investigate. Now, at that time, I had already been a Christian for 20 years, and I believed in things like demons and devils and stuff, but I'd never seen anything. I never had any episodes of anything weird or paranormal happening to me, except for one small thing, but it was nothing like what I'm going to tell you. Okay, what happened to me in February of 2013 was by far the weirdest thing that ever happened to me, because I basically lived a quiet life as an office worker, part-time jobs in Hollywood, and my hobby was watching and drawing anime and watching UFO footage during lunch on YouTube. Okay, and I already had a theory about the whole cover-up, which is that man would not have the motivation or capacity to keep a lid on the whole UFO thing, which is with as much footage as there is, unless, in fact, it was non-humans behind it who didn't want humans in general to have wide acceptance, study, and institutions and everything devoted to actually finding out what the F this is, okay? So this dark feeling came over me. I decided to do some investigating, and as I investigated, I started running, of course, into conspiracy stuff. I think YouTube has kind of closed the lid on it now. So if you type in any of these code words, they might, not show you any of the movies that we could see back then in 2013. But back then they didn't have as much of a clampdown on it, and so I started running into these conspiracies, and the one I ran into, I mentioned, was the 9/11 thing. And 10 years after the fact of actually poo-pooing everybody who said it was a conspiracy or whatever, and I just thought, that's ridiculous. There's no way, they could lie about that. Somebody would find out. Come on, there's no way they could do it. Well, I found out all that is actually true. I know you guys can't talk about that on your show, whether you'll be discredited. And there's a lot of people that would just go nuts if you say it. I've even talked with other conspiracy theorists that make me look tame, and I mentioned that, and they didn't want to talk with me as soon as I mentioned that. That's it. So, everybody has their own limitations on what they're able to accept at the time. And that kind of gets to an important point of what I'm going to say here, is because the next conspiracy I started to see is these crazy idiots on YouTube talking about reptilians and shape-shifting. And they're showing every little glitch from a transmission error to a compression error to, a refresh rate error, whatever, and little blurry spots, whatever. But I started to see a few things. This kind of looks weird, it looks a little bit weird. Okay, I know that two lights on the side can, give people the illusion, oh, look, it's a slit. They have slit eyes because there's two eyes on the side. It kind of makes a black spot on there, kind of makes a black space right there. But I started to see some things that made me question. Then I found a channel which no longer exists, and the gentleman who made it has unfortunately become compromised, let's just say. I don't want to defame him too much, because his earlier work was so important that a lot of people know about it. The channel was called Frequency Fence, and it was I believe it was a Japanese guy who was half white. I think he was half white, half Japanese. Anyway, he had a last name that was Japanese, and he looked partially Japanese. I saw him in a few videos. Most of the videos he made were just showing these reptilian shapeshifter videos. which I thought were completely nuts. People just having fun with Photoshop or whatever, just completely goofy. I didn't pay attention to it for quite a while until I saw this guy's channel, and he did this report in particular on a movie that I was familiar with, a cult classic, the original The Matrix with Keanu Reeves. And I just couldn't believe it. So he took the footage apart, and slowing it down, he showed things that I was just looking at as somebody who knows something about digital images as a graphic artist. I was just, I don't quite see how you get that as a video error. So what I decided to do was get the Blu-ray, put it on my high-def TV, and film it for myself and take apart the footage. I saw some really weird stuff that I could not explain. Really weird stuff. And so I took the footage apart. I made a 15-minute movie called Reptilian Matrix Message, because all this stuff about reptilians, just I wasn't sure, if all this was real or not. But I saw some stuff, and I decided, because I took this apart myself, I just made a 15-minute silent movie, a kind of a follow-up study on the movie that he did, showing that when you slow down the footage in the movie The Matrix, you see these non-human forms, in particular on the actor Keanu Reeves. And but there's a bunch of other really weird stuff. I mean, you just can't fake it. I'll show a few of the images here. But so I saw this and I said, okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and upload this to YouTube. And I didn't have any ambivalence about it. But when I did, inside of 30 minutes, I had helicopters buzzing over my place, 7 or 8 of them just buzzing over. And I had no idea it was for me at the time. Oh, they have that kind of thing happen in LA all the time. There's drug busts. I lived in an apartment building across from the mall in Woodland Hills. And I just thought, oh, well, it must be somebody getting busted for weed or something. Who knows? And but then as the day progressed, I kept getting helicopters buzzing over my place. Like you could hear it from a distance. It would start low, get louder, and we get louder, and then it would fly, And I was on the top floor of this 3-story large apartment complex in Woodland Hills. And as the day wore on, I just began to say to myself, wow, holy crap. Wait, this just can't have anything to do with what I uploaded to YouTube. It just can't be. And in fact, although I began to strongly suspect that it really took me 60 days for it to fully sink in that the helicopters that I now had buzzing my house day and night and flying around in weird formations. And I've lived in LA all my life. I've never seen anything like it. I've lived right in that area. Calabasas or Woodland Hills. I know what flies and what doesn't, what police do, what they don't, what happens, what doesn't happen. I had black SUVs following me on the street. Police vehicles, Los Angeles Police Department vehicles, lighting up their sirens and zooming around me, not pulling me over. I thought they were going to pull me over. They didn't. So much so that I bought a dash camera and started to record it. And when that evidence was so obvious, and I recorded that with some of the reptilian footage in a little 5-minute movie saying, your taxes for my reptilian LAPD escort, that form of stalking, it's known as organized stalking or gang stalking, or being a targeted individual. I heard about it before, and I didn't know anything about it until it happened to me. So this happened, but when I uploaded that form of evidence, that stopped. But the air stalking continued. So multiple forms of aircraft, and even really weird stuff like them showing up exactly at midnight, not kidding, exactly at midnight, right over the roof of my apartment, and really loud, hovering there with the chopper blades going, and I would wake up, and it was this weird feeling. And also, I would get these weird cramps in my legs, and I'm not 100% sure that it wasn't just stress at the time, but it was totally freaked me out. And then I would get these airplanes that would come at the apartment going, and then literally the windows or the walls would creak from what sounded like something being projected at it. As far as ill effects go, I don't recall getting ill effects such as what my angel said that she got for her busting up pedophile and child trafficking rings both in Russia and in Thailand. She got burning, literally, from what she believes are satellite sourced directed energy weapons, or DEWs, as we in the targeted community call it. I couldn't believe that this was happening. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I finally realized, oh my God, this is from these so-called reptilian shapeshifter movies that I was uploading to YouTube, at which point I knew that there was something major going on, because I had these helicopters following me everywhere I went. Okay, so I've lived in LA, like I said, for all my life, been driving for 30 years. I know what's happening here, and I'm not, by the way, I don't have any history of mental illness or any crime record. Like I said, I lived a boring life. My mother was a medical doctor and psychiatrist. My father was a rocket scientist from Boeing, and they knew that I was sane. But like I said, I mentioned what happened to me, and they not only didn't want to help me, they didn't want to hear it. And they still don't, and they won't even talk with me now. I think also, like I said, because I mentioned the problem with the vaccines, that I just didn't believe in it, and it was a problem, and they just don't want to talk with me anymore, unfortunately. But I wanted to tell you guys that the when you guys were talking about the mystery of how crazy everything is, I wonder what would happen if you guys knew that there are invisible elements that are so evil and non-human that we can't imagine, that are really behind a lot of this. These creatures, according to a witness of a guy who went to the second heaven and went to heaven and talked with God and everything, and had an angel with him, this guy named Howard Pittman. His book is called Placebo. And but he witnesses that what he understood was that there was 2,000 of these evil spirits, which I'm calling demons here, for every person. So not only are we surrounded by these non-humans, but they also dwell in us, I understood, as I finally gleaned from the scripture later, Romans 7:18, for I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will, that is, to sin, is ever present with me. I'm ready to go, baby. When it comes to sin, whether it's lying, whether it's cheating, whether it's doing any sort of crappy evil thing, I'm ready to go, baby. I got the skills, I got the motivation, I'm ready to go. But to do good, I find not. So he's saying, and by the way, when he's saying that no good thing dwelling within him, he means these evil spirits that are permanent residents. We are born with them, and we will die with them. Some demons can be cast out when people get possessed. You hear about like an exorcist casting out a demon. That can happen. You can't expel demons. I've actually seen, go to the Chris LaSala channel, you can actually see him in his early movies casting out demons from people. And on Skype, he's actually over Skype, and he had a gift from the Holy Spirit to command these demons to come out, and you actually see him coughing up stuff, and they're also talking too, and it switches from one demon rotating to another, and they'll say, "Who am I talking with now?" And it says, "I'm a demon, I'm a moth," or some weird stuff, and the guy's voice sounds weird, and it's pretty convincing. These guys would, if they're wasting their time making bullshit movies if they could be an actor. So they're not acting. This is real. This is really happening. Evil spirits, okay? But these are, the thing is, people hear spirits and think, oh, just some wispy thing that doesn't exist, okay? Got a lot of people like David Icke and others making big money talking about non-humans. I, Richard Bruce, show them. They talk about reptilians or aliens. I show, okay? And I show in a way that other people can check it out for themselves, such as the original Blade Runner with Harrison Ford and the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, two prime candidates for massive reptilian shape-shifting and or what I also termed demonic distortion, which I learned when I discovered some of the same forms that I was seeing on these other people on myself. And I couldn't believe it. Oh my God, am I seeing reptilian tiles on my face and weird shapes and stuff that I was seeing in other people, and I thought it was because they were shape-shifting? Turns out that there is a phenomena that somehow shows some truth about these creatures. I don't know if it's the actual form of them or whether it's the truth appearing in something that's like an interpretive truth. I know that sounds very weird, but an example of an interpretive truth is, you may have heard of reverse speech. Okay? If you reverse speech some people, like try reverse speeching people like, well, I hate to pick on poor David Icke.
This guy has at least some knowledge of what's happening. And as over Elon Musk,
Guy can't go a chapter in his books, which are very good, by the way, without defaming Christianity, the Bible. And I'm supposed to be a priest here, so I'm saying actually his work is quite good, and I follow it. But reverse speech him, and
we want towards that aim. Yeah, no will.
Yeah, he's one of those people that it shows up right away. Other people like Donald Trump can't get it out of him. But that's an example of an interpretive truth, which my understanding from who I learned about reverse speech from, Peggy Kane, a researcher whom I think the only thing that now exists of her are the videos, because a lot of these people who come forward with this stuff somehow have a habit of disappearing. Just a little warning if you ever go public with any of this stuff, which, by the way, I'll also tell you that they tried to kill me 3 times. In 2 of the times that they tried to kill me, that is an actual assassination attempt. The assassins themselves were killed. I have no proof of this whatsoever. Anybody can very justifiably say that I'm making it up or just imagining it in my mind. What I can say is that the Lord revealed it to me, and there's an example of it in the scripture. Psalm 27:2, when my enemies and my foes came to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Who is your enemy and your foe that comes to eat up your flesh? This is talking about beasts, okay? So beasts in the scripture, in case you don't know, can refer to a beast that is just a, like a regular donkey or pig or cow or whatever, regular beast, regular animal. But beasts also refer to these sentient, non-human beings that we see depictions of in the Egyptian renderings, such as the one with a bird head, the one with an alligator head, the one with a dog head, and they tended to be much taller than human, giants compared to humans. So it's no wonder, and also very powerful with very advanced technology, and it's no wonder the Egyptians worship them, and also the naturally occurring beasts. I call them naturally occurring beasts because I believe that they were created separately, that don't have anything to do with Satan and his fallen angels. But what happened to Satan and his fallen angels, in case you didn't know, Satan was formerly named Sataniel, which is angel of heaven. He became Satan, angel of hell. When he fell from grace because he sinned, this universe is, I'm just broadly interpreting here, this isn't scriptural, but there is scriptural evidence for it, that when you sin to a certain degree, you are turned into a beast. Okay, you become a beast. You actually start sprouting claws and scales or whatever beast you get turned into for whatever sin you did, and that's your punishment. And so what happened was these former angels, Sataniel was formerly the most beautiful and most talented of the angels, which is why they all loved him and followed him, even when he said, "Hey, come on, let's all rebel against God." It was a great idea. Let's rebel against God. But of course, they all paid a serious price, and these angelic beings were turned into beasts. In fact, I even had a further encounter where my angel A, encountered some angels that were actually turned into beasts, and they came up, she said, from the underworld, and there's a whole discussion there I won't get into. But just as an example, she hugged this one woman who had become a bird beast, and when she hugged her, she momentarily changed back to her human angelic form. She came back to her human angelic form, and this other angel, Angel B, saw her, and he was smitten with her, and he was even saying that he was trying to even though she turned back into a bird beast when Angel A let go of her, he was kind of smitten with her, and I was giving him advice on how to impress her because he was very unimpressive, trying to get her to be his girlfriend, and that's a long story. But I just wanted to tell you guys that the evil that we're seeing here, and if you get into the topics which are normally off limits, if you want to keep your job or your YouTube channel popularity among your audience, are paranormal to the extent that what's happening is that the culture that Satan has created in this world, and I believe God has, it's ultimately God behind everything, even behind Satan, because Satan even says that that the kingdoms of the world are given into his hand. Who gave it into his hand? God. So God is the ultimate creator of all this, but the fact of the matter is that Satan has created a world where even mentioning these topics in a serious way, you'll lose credibility among your main, among the mainstream. Let's just put it that way. But again, what I am trying to tell you guys is that eventually and someday, the truth about all this is going to come out. It is going to be in everyone's face, and people are going to know it. Again, you don't get sent an angel like I got sent in 2019, all this stuff happening, and have that angel say that that you're a priest, and now I find out, I thought I was just because I'll be honest with you, I was, a pot-smoking punk who liked to hang out at the beach. I'm a high school dropout. I don't like authority, I don't like school, and I don't like working. And to me, all the businesses were evil and the jobs I couldn't stand. And so I just worked odd jobs to survive. I couldn't pay rent, but I just lived on the street in a vehicle. And that's basically my story up until now. But it's amazing for that the difference between myself and somebody like Tucker Carlson, who's 1 year older than me, basically the same age. And look at the difference. But I gotta say, I am glad to have what I have. I am proud that I have accomplished what I've accomplished. To have God send me an angel that I even had a feeling of love for, and she had a feeling of love for me, and this is all documented. I can prove it. And she was the most magnificent woman, the most spectacular, the most cool woman you could possibly imagine, because she wasn't a human woman, she was an angel actually. And wow, it was just amazing. So I just wanted to say that to you guys in case by any chance you happen to be surfing the internet and somehow YouTube allows you. By the way, YouTube not only did they block my channel, they unsubscribe people from my channel, so they massively shadow ban me. I'm lucky if I get 1,200 views on something. Maybe I'll get maybe I'll get 2,000 views on something. Wow, big turnout. But whereas you guys get hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of views, 40,000, 50,000, 200,000, a million views all the time. Look at me. I can't afford rent. And I won't be able to. I got demonetized in I think it was 2016 for a alien abduction video with a certain person that apparently was very sensitive, but to their whatever their agenda is, their non-human agenda. Because there's no question about it. They have reacted specifically to things, by the way, on YouTube that I have addressed, and they've tried to shut me down. And I was explaining to a policeman the other day that somebody called on me because I dared to park my RV on the street in Calabasas. But I had a conversation with him. I even gave him a one-piece paper that I wrote up specifically for the Los Angeles Police Department to just briefly explain my situation. And I was telling him, I said, look, why? First of all, if they can't kill me, why don't they just shut down my YouTube channel? I don't understand why. If they really care that much about it, spending literally millions of dollars to gang stalk me, because even if those are largely holograms, which I believe that they are due to the timing, see the John Lear videos, you can see, I don't know if they're still up, maybe YouTube took them down because they don't want the truth out there, but they have holographic technology. You cannot tell the difference. Noise and vibration, no, I felt it in my chest, I know it was real. They have holograms with all that. You cannot tell the difference. And I knew that they were using holograms because it would be impossible to time a helicopter buzzing me right when I came home at various times. As I would walk up to the door, psychological warfare. But as the reason why I even have 80,000 plus subscribers is because I didn't let them intimidate me, and I threw that back in their face with video showing that they're doing this. But this stuff is so weird that most people won't touch it, but I just thought I would let you know in case you find my channel that I really respect you guys, and I just wanted to tell you this amazing reality that we have going on here is actually paranormal in nature, to the extent that most people, unless some sort of groundbreaking event happens, something that breaks the glass ceiling of paranormal belief in the mainstream, which, by the way, the demons that are living in most people keep you from believing it, okay? In addition to all the demons working in you, and then there's the demons working in the people in the mainstream media. It's all to keep you from knowing the truth, and weirdly enough, I believe that this is actually all part of God's plan, because sin and faith and all those things can't be from knowing for sure. You must live in faith. That's the whole point of living in faith. Not knowing for sure, but acting in a faithful manner. And if you're watching this, it's not too late. Say this prayer now. Father in heaven, please save my soul by the work of your Son Jesus on the cross, and show me your pure words in the authorized King James Bible.
And I remember, I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, I remember a lizard man in that office.
This is a war on religion. This is a war on the children. They kill with the sickness.